Replace me in the early 1900s seconds. A small town in America was plagued by a series of horrific murders. It all started when a farmer named Jonathan Potts was found brutally murdered in his home. His body was mutilated beyond recognition, and the killer had left a message on the wall written in blood. "You're next," with your own words. The entire town was in a panic, and the sheriff vowed to find the killer and bring him to justice. But despite their efforts, the murders continued. One by one, people were found dead in their homes, their bodies disfigured, and their blood used to write chilling messages on the walls. The townspeople became paranoid and started locking themselves inside their homes at night. But even that didn't stop the killer. One night, a young couple was found dead in their bed, their throats slit open. The killer had written a message in blood on the wall above their bed. "I see you." No one knew who the killer was or why he was doing this. The sheriff had no leads, and the townspeople were living in fear. One night, a group of men decided to take matters into their own hands. They formed a vigilante group and set out to find the killer themselves. They searched high and low, but the killer seemed to be one step ahead of them. Just when they thought they had him cornered, he would slip away into the night. The vigilantes were becoming more and more desperate, and they started taking extreme measures. One night, they caught a man who they believed to be the killer. They dragged him into the town square and began to beat him mercilessly. But as they were about to hang him, they realized that he wasn't the killer at all. He was just a drifter passing through town. The doctor had been using the murders to cover up his own crimes. He had been performing illegal experiments on his patients, and the murders were a way to dispose of the bodies without anyone asking questions. The doctor was tried and convicted for his crimes, and the town slowly began to heal. But the memory of those horrific murders lingered for years to come, and the town was never quite the same again. Even after the doctor was caught and brought to justice, the town was still haunted by the memory of the murders. The townspeople were left wondering how they could have been so blind to the doctor's evil deeds. They felt betrayed by someone they had trusted, someone who was supposed to be a healer and a protector. Many of the townspeople moved away, unable to shake the feeling of unease that permeated the town. Those who remained tried to move on, but they could never forget what had happened. The town became known as a place of darkness and horror, and people would often tell stories about the murders to scare each other. Over time, the memory of the doctor and the murders began to fade. New generations of people moved into the town, and they had no connection to the events of the past. But some say that the town is still haunted by the ghosts of those who were killed, and that the doctor's spirit still lingers in the shadows. One night, a group of teenagers were out exploring the abandoned hospital where the doctor had performed his experiments. They were looking for a thrill, but they got more than they bargained for. As they made their way through the dark hallways, they heard strange noises and saw shadows moving in the corners of their eyes. Suddenly, one of them screamed. They had stumbled upon the doctor's old laboratory, and they could see jars filled with strange specimens and machines that looked like they belonged in a horror movie. As they turned to leave, they saw a figure standing in the doorway, watching them. It was the doctor's ghost, and he was angry. He had never been able to rest in peace, and he wasn't going to let anyone disturb his lab. The teenagers ran for their lives, never daring to return to the hospital again. Years later, the hospital was torn down, and a new building was put in its place. But some say that the ghost of the doctor still haunts the grounds, and that his victims still wander the halls at night. The town may have moved on, but the memory of the murders will never truly fade away. Despite the demolition of the hospital, the rumors and ghost stories surrounding the town never truly disappeared. People who had never even heard of the murders would sometimes feel uneasy when passing through, sensing an inexplicable presence that they couldn't quite explain. One such person was a young journalist named Sarah. She had grown up in the nearby city and had always been fascinated by the stories of the town's dark past. As an investigative reporter, she saw an opportunity to uncover the truth behind the rumors and the legends. Sarah arrived in the town and began to ask around. Some people were reluctant to speak about the murders, while others were eager to share their own personal experiences with the supernatural. As she dug deeper, she began to realize that the stories she had heard were more than just myths. They were based on real events that had taken place in the town. She found a retired police officer who had worked on the case and was able to get access to old case files and evidence. She spent long hours poring over the details, trying to piece together what had really happened all those years ago. But the more she uncovered, the more she realized that the truth was even more disturbing than the rumors. She discovered that the doctor had not acted alone in his experiments. He had been part of a larger group of scientists who were conducting illegal research into human subjects. The group had been using the town as a testing ground for their twisted experiments, and the doctor had been the one tasked with disposing of the bodies. As Sarah delved deeper, she began to receive threats from unknown sources. Someone did not want her to uncover the truth and was willing to do anything to stop her. But Sarah was determined to see her investigation through to the end. One night, as she was leaving the library where she had been working, she was attacked by an unknown assailant. She was beaten and left for dead, but she managed to survive. As she recovered in the hospital, she knew that she was getting closer to the truth. Eventually, Sarah was able to piece together the entire story. She exposed the truth about the experiments, and the people involved were finally brought to justice. The town was finally able to heal from the trauma of the past, and the ghost stories and legends began to fade away. Sarah's investigation had uncovered the darkest secrets of the town's history, but it had also brought closure to the families of the victims and had helped the town to move on from the horrors of the past. It was a long and difficult journey, but Sarah had proven that the truth was worth fighting for.